Hello and welcome back to my craft room. Time for a bit more stitching today, and I want to get back to my vintage dictionary of stitches, which I'm doing. I'm following along with Create and Craft with Christine. I will link to her playlist below. She went through and made, it was something like 175 videos, but they're all little short ones. None of them are all that long, and they're just lovely, chatty, happy, friendly videos. So, and she went through the whole alphabet and doing all different stitches for that letter, beginning with that letter of the alphabet. So I did A last time. I finished my A pages. There weren't too many A pages, and I added some American smocking in. I think that was my last video, and now I'm ready to start on the B's. So there are a couple of different kinds of back stitches that Christine shows. Now I thought there was only one, but I like the way she does it. She does this second one, which is how her mum and her gran taught her, and it looks neater on the back, so it just looks like a straight stitch on the back as well as the front, rather than that messy backside that you usually get with back stitching. So I'm looking forward to having a go at that. And there are loads of different kinds of blanket stitches, which will be really handy to have to learn some variations on a blanket stitch, because it's so handy. And and a few others, bullion knots. I'm looking forward to having a better go at them, because I've never really got the hang of them. And a couple extra things I want to bring in myself as well. So let's go to the desk and I'll show you what I'm playing with today. So this is the beginnings of my book. I've got another big wad like this of pages ready. I've just folded it concertina wise. I was going to change and do it how Christine does it. I like the way she laid her pages out, but I've decided now I've started this way, it's too difficult to change. So anyway, this is going to be my kind of front. No, this will be attached to the cover. This will be my kind of front embroidery. I might put a table of contents or something there, not sure. And then this was my first page. This is my A page. So I did a applique, A for applique, needle turn applique, I think it's called. A there, and embroidered a little bit over the top of it. And I've done all the different A stitches here. We've got, that Christine went through. So we've got antique, Armenian eye. That's Armenian eye as well. This was arrowhead. That shouldn't have been Armenian eye. I've done that wrong. Well, that's annoying. I'm going to have to unpick that because it'll just annoy me too much. I suddenly thought, I've got Armenian here. This is Algerian eye. Algerian eye. And this is Armenian edge stitch. And this is Antwerp edge stitch. It's almost like a blanket stitch with a little knot in it. It's really pretty. Well, that is stupid, isn't it? I think I can probably unpick that, annoying though it is, and make it into Algerian eye. I'd only have to change it A-L-G. Oh, I'd only have to take out those 3 letters. Hopefully I can leave the others in place. What a plonker. Plonker Rodney. I loved the antique stitch. Yeah. So, and then the last time I came on, I did this because I'd been to the Stitch Festival and saw a demonstration of American smocking. I wanted to have a go at that, so I did that last time in this lovely satin that Kathy Hansen sent me that from Australia. Most of the fabrics I've used so far have come over from Australia. It's amazing, isn't it? So I'm going to probably just tuck that in there. Got this beautiful piece of lace here which Paula sent me, which her friend Deborah gave her, and it was her mum that made it when she was a young girl still living over here in the UK, working in the cotton mills. Amazing. Time to move on. I'm going to put that out the way now. I will at some point soon need to add another little section in. We'll forget about that for now. I can sort that out off camera. Today I just want to make a start on my back stitch and blanket stitch. So I've just folded that. That flap will join onto the next page. So I don't want to put anything on it because it will get lost. So I'm just tucking it under out of the way. And I've picked out some fabrics I want to use for this page. So each time I want to use a sort of mixture of fabrics to make an interesting looking background and to stitch onto and into. I like the idea of, as I did here, doing samples of the stitching and then using the stitching on the page as well. So, using one of the stitches that I'm learning to actually attach the pieces down, and just using them here and there throughout the page. I've used other stitches as well, but yeah. What I haven't done is put the name of this stitch. Such a pretty one now. What was this? Ainu running. That's why that was there. Yeah, I need to put Ainu on there. That still needs to be done. So I've picked out some prints to use. I will just use small pieces of these, so I want them to spread them throughout the book, and I want some of these these will be lovely to make some Suffolk puffs later, for instance. So I've just got a little mixture. I'll use these over, it'll be double spread, so I want to coordinate the whole double spread. So you can see how, I mean, I won't cover it completely like that, but this little piece, this is another piece that came in amongst the lovely bundle that Christine sent me. It's already like this with this edge pressed down and this sort of corner shape. So what I'm thinking is I'll turn it into a little, like a tuck spot, something extra into. So like, you know, if I did an extra sample or something, it would tuck inside. Probably what I would do is attach it down like that. Might clip a bit of this off so as not to waste it. Don't want anything hanging out the bottom. It can poke up the top and it can stick out the sides, but it needs to be able to stand up. So I'm trying not to have anything hanging out the bottom. So I probably would then put that over that way, and that would make a nice little tuck spot. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. And I added some plain because that'll be easier to make the stitches show. I've got some plain calico as well, sort of a medium weight calico, which I thought would be good. I'm going to do the blanket stitches, I think, rather than just do them on a flat piece. I'm toying with the idea of kind of making little tucks like this, so that you can pick them up and see the other side and do the blanket stitch along there. There's several different kinds. I want to try them all. There's a honeycomb one. See, that could all go. The honeycomb one could go on the bottom, and I could have 3 different kinds of blanket stitch along here. Later on, there's a buttonhole stitch as well. Different buttonhole stitches. So I want to have like a little interactive flap with an actual button, you know, so that you can actually. So it's working. I want to have some like interactive elements in this book. And then I've also got a piece of this. This is some Kathy as well. Another piece that's beautiful. These are all vintage as well. Everything I'm using is vintage. Oh, I love that. The whole thing was, well, partly was sparked by Christine's amazing Dictionary of Stitches series, but also it was the perfect opportunity to use those amazing vintage threads that I got. Miss Cheatham's threads. You'll know about them if you've watched my channel very much. So yeah, I've got this lovely piece of sheer organza, and this is what Kathy sent me, specifically with the idea of putting some of the lovely labels that I got, that I rescued from amongst the tangled ball of threads that I unravelled and ended up with. Let me take these out of the way. This was a tangled mass of threads that was in the bottom of the box of threads that I bought. In amongst them were all of these labels and a couple of other bits and bobs. So Kathy said, I was wondering, how can I keep them? What can I do? I'm going to try laying them out on paper and seeing if I can get a good scan of them so I can print them on fabric and things. But I thought it would be nice to keep a few just as they are. And Kathy suggested making a little organza bag, and she'd got this vintage organza, so I might just make a little pocket, a little see-through pocket somewhere on this page that I can put some of these labels in. I just think that would be so nice. But that'll be a bit later. And I threw in this piece of velvet. This is one of the vintage fabrics I got from Love Me Blue, just for a bit of different texture. I just love the look of that. Yeah, so I want to put something or some sort of old little thing like that on each page if I can. Like here, I've got, this was also found in amongst the tangled ball of threads. I love that. And this needle was in there, so I've actually couched the needle down. It's not a usable needle, but it's just lovely to have it. I've got this little thimble that came in a vintage workbox I bought once. I just love it. You can see it's well battered, but I just love it. I love the look of it, and I'm wondering if I can incorporate it somehow, even if perhaps it ends up I might have to make a little hole in the top of it and turn it into like a dangler to go in off a kind of a ribbon bookmark at the end, maybe, you know, something like that. Oh, I did pull out a little bit of braid as well. So I've got this massive basket of materials to use, so when I'm starting each new double spread, I'm just pulling out a slightly smaller selection of fabrics to work with, because otherwise it gets completely bewildering. So let's just sort myself out here. Yeah, that's a lovely little mixture of pieces, isn't it? I wanted to keep this kind of, what would you call it, duck egg blue, robin's egg blue, and kind of apricot and cream colour pretty much all the way through, but I've already brought in the pink here and I think that's fine. I will probably bring in bits of other colours. You can see, you know, the greens, bits of greens and yellows and things look lovely in there. But my main kind of fabrics are sticking with that colour scheme. Let's put that out of the way there. Now, a couple of other things I've got. I thought it'd be nice to put one of these down and I can attach it with backstitch and blanket stitch as well. That came in the package from Christine. So did this lovely blanket stitched pouch. I thought, well, it's got blanket stitch on already, I'd like to bring it in somehow. But I think probably what I'm going to do is just put it in between the pages when the book goes together, and I can put other things inside here, like possibly I've got some of the vintage 1930s magazines that come from the same time as the threads that I'm using, and probably a lot of these fabrics and embroideries. And I thought it would be so nice to put some of them inside here and just slip it inside the book. And I could also stitch into this. It's just crying out to be stitched on, isn't it? That's my, oh no, that isn't all of it yet. I've got this little piece of cross-stitch type fabric. I don't know if this will work, but I want to try some Bargello work. And that's not one of the ones that Christine covers, but I have done some before on plastic canvas. I mean, I could even use a piece of plastic canvas because it could slip into that little tuck spot that I'm making. But I'm keeping that. I just came across this in the pile, so I'll put that there to remind me that I want to do some Bargello work. And while I was having my big clear out of my storeroom, I found this. And I don't know how long I've had this now. It's a little sampler kit to do black work. And obviously, you know, I started it at the time and then wandered off and forgot about it. But I could definitely attach that to my page as well. There are a few more different examples to try, so I think I'll quite enjoy doing that. And I can always get, I've got loads more of this. I think that'd be quite a nice little addition as well. So, big plans. I think it's going to be 2 or 3 videos doing this doing this bee section. So I think probably I'm better off to do my little stitched pieces before I put it all together. Or am I? Let's say this whole page is going to be, probably this whole page I'm going to need just to do the 2 kinds of back stitch and the blanket stitch. And then on this, on the what will be the facing page, I'll do buttonholes, braid stitch, bullion knots, different things to do with bullion knots, several different kinds of buttonhole stitch as well. So I will probably do back stitch and blanket stitch on this page, and bullion knots and buttonholes on this page, and the braid stitch. The braid stitch will go wherever I've got a space left, and then I will tuck my Bargello work and my black work into the little tuck spot. That makes sense. I have a plan. Right, I'm going to stop recording, sort myself out a minute, and I'll be back. Right, I finished having a bit more of a play around. I know it looks a complete shambles at the moment, but pulled out the colours of thread I'm going to use. So I've brought in a couple of different shades of green, and I'm just, this isn't necessarily the layout, I was just toying with the idea of creating a patchwork of these pieces. I've kind of pleated this little apricot coloured piece here. So this will have all the different kinds of blanket stitches I want to try. Some will be running along the edges here, so these edges will move. And then there's a couple that will need a bit more space that I'm hoping I can fit in down here. So I'm kind of thinking I'll give that pretty much centre stage and kind of enclose the edges of it like that. So it's just kind of a window. And then I can use some of this lovely braid to create a little frame for it, and that'll be my blanket stitch sample bit. And then I'll do a little piece of the back stitch and possibly the braid stitch as well on a piece of calico. Just thinking that there, I want to have a little bit of the velvet for the texture, but only a very small piece. But I need to make that last. I've only got a little bit of that. And I really would like to bring this in, and this will work well with the back stitch and that as well, I think. So really what I need to do before I can go any further is to get my back stitch sample done. Not back stitch, blanket stitch sample done. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is just run some Oops, I'm hoping this is going to work anyway. Run some just little lines of running stitch just along the edges where to hold these folds in place, and then I'll do the blanket stitch onto them. I'm hoping that's going to work anyway. I don't need to use embroidery threads for that, but I have said I'm going to try and stick with using my vintage threads all the way through. I mean, I've got them to use, so I might as well. I had such a belly full of tidying my room just recently. I'm trying to keep it tidy now. I'm trying to sort these threads as I go at the end of every session. I'm going through them, sorting them out, retwisting them into skeins if I need to. Okay, I'm getting my thread knotted, I'm unthreading my needle. This is not going well. Right, I need to make an effort to make this a little bit neater because this is going to show. Right, so what I reckon is if I do each little pleat like that, I've got enough left there to do the blanket stitch along here, and then it will be interesting to me when I've done the sample to be able to pick it up and see what it looks like on the back as well. So I'm going to go through and tack down all of these pleats like that, and then I'm going to start on the actual blanket stitch. Yes, I need to make sure I stitch pretty close to, I don't know if you can see it, yeah, pretty close to where the folded edge is underneath, so that I've got plenty free here to make the blanket stitch on. So I'm going to go through and do all of these, and then I'll come back when I've got something a bit more interesting to show you. I'm not very good at chatting about interesting stuff while I sew, like some of my friends on YouTube are. Okay, I've been fanning about with this for quite a long time now. I've decided I think this is the layout I want. That's a bit sort of blank looking there, but by the time I've got the stitches on it and everything, that's going to balance out nicely with the prints and things, I think. So the next thing I've got to do is actually do my blanket stitch samples on there. This little piece will be for the back stitch and braid stitch samples. I've decided I'm going to use these 3 colours from these vintage silks to do the stitch samples. I think they look nice, and then I'll use a combination of probably these to stitch all the fabric pieces down. I hope this tuck idea, pleat idea is going to work. Okay, so I'm just doing my normal straightforward back stitch. Why do I keep calling it back stitch? Because I'm doing back stitch as well. This is blanket stitch. I'm sure most people watching this will probably already know this stitch very well, but just in case I get the odd few people that are just learning, this is a very handy stitch. I would advocate going and watching Christine's tutorials though, because apart from anything else, I don't know how she does it, but she films her stitching really nice and closely. She does do it in a hoop, which makes it a bit easier to see what she's doing, I think. Such a dark, dreary day outside today. There was a little glimmer of sunshine for about an hour earlier on, so I went out and had my walk. Didn't get very far, it was freezing. It's like we've gone back into midwinter again, and it's the middle of April. Ne'er cast a clout till May is out, as they say. Really keen to learn I think my favourite of the blanket stitches is going to be the German one. It looks like little people holding hands. I'm looking forward to learning that. I think it's a really cute stitch. You're also useful, I mean, all these blanket stitches are so useful for tidying edges and attaching pieces together and that kind of thing. It's just nice to have some different versions in your arsenal. I think that's going to work quite well to have all my samples like that, because that means I can look up and I can show the other side as well. Because if you're using it as to edge something like a blanket or whatever, you do need to know that it's going to look all right both sides, don't you? So Okay, I'm going to finish this and then I'll come back and show you a little bit of the next stitch. But as I say, I would advocate going and watching Christine if you want to see a better demonstration of the actual. Right, now I'm going to do pretty much the same thing again, but this time I'm going to make it long and short. So the little legs are going to be one short one, one long one, just to I think Christine does this as a scallop effect, a long and short one and then a little scallop. I'm going to do the other scallop in a minute, but I'm not going to add the scallop to this one because I want to go along my pleats, so I'm just going to do long and short. So let's make this long one. Shall I make it even longer than those were? Let's really exaggerate it. I do love when you get these, you know, you learn these, some of them quite basic stitches, and then you can play around with them, make bits longer and shorter and bigger and fatter and yeah, just to ring the changes a bit. So that's a short leg this time. Now we'll do another long leg. I'm putting these quite close together this time as well, actually. It's a little bit awkward doing it at the right angle for the camera to see, so I'm making this look a bit more difficult than it really is. As I say, go and watch Christine. Okay, I like that effect though. I think it's going to look pretty. Yeah, I like that look. I'm going to go all the way along doing that, and then the next one is going to be the German knotted blanket stitch, I think it's called. So I'll come back when I'm ready to start. I've finished my long and short. I think it looks really pretty. I love these silk threads, they're so nice to use. I love the sheen on them when you're all done as well. Quite happy with that, and as I say, it's nice to be able to pick it up and see what the back looks like. You can see I need practice. I pulled a bit too tight there, but you know, that's partly what this is for. So now I'm going to try the German knotted stitch. I've been really looking forward to this one. I'm going to skip a row because I don't want to put blue next to blue, and I've got this blue left in my needle. So I think the idea is that you make 2 of the blanket stitches fairly close together, and then you put the needle through the 2 kind of legs like that, so it's sort of, the thread sort of wraps around them and pulls them together. Mine isn't looking like Christine's did. Maybe it sorts itself out as it goes along. And then you do another 2 stitches. It looks so cute the way Christine's done it anyway. Looks like a row of little people holding hands. I love that. So another 2, and put my needle back through. Oh yeah, it's getting there now. It is quite slippy, this thread, that's the only thing with it. Funny enough with it, because some of the vintage threads had sort of deteriorated a bit and weren't really usable, were sort of getting snapping. But that was the cotton ones. The silk ones, all of the silk ones seem to be fine. I don't think mine looks quite as beautiful as Christine's does, but I probably just need to practice a bit more. Quite pretty, really nice. And I don't know if Christine does it in this series of videos, or I've seen her do it somewhere else, or I've seen someone else do it. I can't remember now. But if you do a whole row of them on a flat piece of fabric rather than an edge, and then you can do like a French knot at the top of each one to make little faces. Cute. Okay, I'm going to work along and finish German knotted blanket stitch. And then we're going to do a whipped blanket stitch in the same video. And then I've got one more kind of blanket stitch to do there. Yeah, the Rosette of Thorns one. And then I'm going to do the scallop one here and the honeycomb. And that'll be it for my blanket stitches. And then I'm ready to put my page together. So I think I'm going to go on and just finish those stitches up. There's no point in me showing you these stitches as well, because Christine does it way better than I'm going to. So I'm going to work through, do my little sample piece, and then come back and show you what I'm doing next. I've sort of mocked up a layout for the facing page as well. There'll be more samples on there as well. I need another plain piece to do some samples on, and there will be the tuck spot there somewhere, probably making it up as I go along. I will finish my black work as well. There's all the bullion stitch samples to go somewhere, buttonholes. I might even go on to another page, I don't know. I might end up fashioning some kind of a flap up thing with the buttonhole stitch and an actual button, something like that. Haven't decided about that yet, but I just wanted to kind of mock it up a little bit. So if I just slide these off, so at the moment this is just kind of a partial page that will then be stitched onto the next stretch of folded pages. So I'm leaving it kind of blank at the moment, but I've let these kind of overlap. So this is the finished little samples, different kinds of blanket stitch. Really happy with them. I loved doing that. I struggled a bit with the was it called a crown of thorns, or coronet of thorns, or whatever it was called. I struggled with that one. I should have drawn it out first, but I couldn't find my heat erasable pen, so I just sort of made it up, and but it's okay. It's enough to remind me of the idea. Really enjoyed doing this little German knotted stitch. Loved that. This was a blanket, just a whipped blanket stitch where you whip another colour on that edge part of the stitch. I think it looks really nice. Loved doing this. I'd never thought of doing this before. It's just an ordinary blanket stitch, but done in this scallop thing, and Christine showed how to just mark out the scallop shapes drawing around something round. I used this little spool for that, and this is the honeycomb version of the blanket stitch. Ideally I should have done another row, but I ran out of space, but that's enough. So that is going to go there. These pieces will kind of overlap it a bit. I need to stitch all this down. I'll probably cover a lot of these pieces will be covered with straight stitch. I think this one will be a good place to put the circular blanket stitch. It's like a circular version of, I can't remember what it was called. I'm not going to do all of the options that Christine showed. There were a lot of them, and I want to try and fit them all onto here, but I did like the circular ones, so I'm going to do them probably on this because it's nice and light. And then I need to do my back stitch samples here, the two different kinds of back stitch, and then I'll do a combination of back stitch and blanket stitch on this little piece here. Right, I've done a bit more. I can't remember quite where I got to when I finished filming the last little clip, but I've spent some time laying out these pieces of fabric to cover the second page of the spread. So these areas are plain to do some of my stitch samples on, here and here. Somewhere I want to do a buttonhole, and how it might end up being here. I want to put a little piece of pattern fabric underneath, have the buttonhole here, the button sewed on, and button it down. That's what I'm kind of thinking. So I just got that far. Oh, and I've still got my back stitching to do here and my circular blanket stitches. Kept toying around with where this one would go, and I think I need to wait until I've done all the sample stitching and then add this on. I've gone away from the idea of using this one for the little tuck spot because I thought if I do want to do it, and I tried this one as well because it's got this kind of almost a blanket stitch that's then been crocheted into. So I will use this for a tuck spot because it would work very well as a tuck spot for another page. But now I've got this here. No. Then I thought about this one because I didn't know what this kind of lace is, but one of my lovely viewers left a comment telling me that this is known as Battenberg lace. There we go, which sent me down another whole fascinating little rabbit hole. This lace used to be made up using a tape, and you could buy the tape. It sounds like you could. There are instructions for it in some of those vintage magazines that I bought. And you could buy the tape to make this with, so yeah, that was really interesting. So because it's B for Battenberg, I did think I might use this. So imagine this has actually been cut into quarters, and that would make quite a cute tuck spot as well. In the end, I think I just quite like the look of it like that, and this is probably going to go on to the next page because I think I'm going to need more than these 2 pages for my bees. One of these squares has got to have the actual bee in it. as well. Then I had done all this and thought, right, I'm going to tack this all down. Now I've tacked the pieces on this side down. Then I had a sudden inspiration. So I was going to come back and just show you how I'm going to join in the next page. And that's what got me thinking. So I need to take these off in such a way that I don't have to think about that layout again. Because I've been faffing around with that for so long. There we go. So I'll leave them there. And what I was going to do was just join these in together. Just do some lines of running stitch there, just to join these pieces. And then I'll just carry on into the next section. But I'm now thinking, what if instead I turned it this way? Because this has just ended up shorter because I've got the whole page on this end, but you end up with it not quite being enough. So what if instead of joining them the way I just showed, I join them this way, cut them so they're the same size. I'd have to do it a bit more carefully than I'm showing here. And keep this as an extra little piece. Cover it with these pieces that I've laid out, so that I've got this extra little bit here, and that would give me that bit of extra space that I need. There's even a possibility that I could button this section down, so you have to actually undo my buttonholes to see what's underneath. So I think that's where I'm going now. I quite like that idea. I did want to have some fun little interactive parts in this book. I could still possibly end up with a little tuck spot here. It depends on what... In the end, one of the reasons I didn't do it was that I'd end up with a whole lot of light colours down here, and I wanted to sort of break it all up a bit. But depending on what I end up with here on this second piece, I might. So I think that is what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, I'll need to find some more pieces now to go in here, but I just really like that idea, and I think because there are quite a lot of bee stitches, that will just give me that much more space. The bits like this that I'm planning to do the stitch samples on, I won't actually stitch down because it's going to be easier to do the stitches on them like this, so I need to do the samples before I tack everything down. But I've got these lovely laces as well that I didn't use, so just give me more scope to use this one as well. I toyed around with this piece of lace for so long, and now I might manage to find a place for that on this page. There's my little organza bag. It's got to go somewhere too, and that will be good because it will bring a little bit of blue in. I really need a bit more blue. I mean, in a way it's just another page, isn't it, but it's a shorter page, but I like the idea that I could button the two together or whatever. And I've got some really nice vintage buttons to use as well, so I think that could be quite fun. And then when you open it up, you find some more examples of stitches underneath. Right, it's actually the next morning now, and this is where I got to last night. I ended up with this little pile of threads. I try and keep them separate after all of that work spent disentangling them. But no matter what you do, they do seem to end up doing this each time, so what I'm doing is just taking the time to sort them through. Each time I finish a session, I put them back into their little skeins again. This is where I've got to for now, and this is where I'm going to finish this video, I think. Still got loads more to do, but I'm really enjoying it. I haven't actually stitched these two flaps together yet, and what I think I'm going to do is, rather than just stitch them together and have them like, in effect, they're just a shorter page, aren't they? I'm just going to stitch them on this edge and this edge, finish this edge with some of that lovely vintage lace that Christine sent me, and leave it open as a pocket, and in that pocket I can put my samples of Bargello work, black work, and all that kind of thing can go in there. So this is where I'm going to put the buttonholes, this is where the back stitch will go, this is where the braid stitch is going to go, and then I'm going to carry on doing I really enjoy just doing some straight stitching into this, because I just love the just texture and look of it. I'll probably do the same on this one, and I think with these these have got, and it may possibly be what Christine had in mind when she put them in my bundle. They've definitely got huge thread painting possibilities. But I have got some more of this to do that with later, and I've got some more of this. So I think what I'm going to do is, because I'm using backstitch on this page, I'm going to go around some of these outlines in backstitch. I might even put just a little bit of a thin batting behind there to help it to stand out. before I stitch these pieces down. And I could also use the other stitches that I'm using on this page, couldn't I? So here's all my samples of blanket stitch. I think I already went through. I did some more last night, these little circle ones. I love these circle ones. Mine aren't nice and uniform, but I just love the look of them. And then there was this kind of filling in a circle. I accidentally used the wrong shade of that apricot, but I quite like the look of that. That was filling in a circle with blanket stitch. These were the detached blanket stitch, and what I really liked was that I'd never tried before. I'd done the detached one before, which is just like this one. Oops, let's get it to focus. Yeah. Oh, dear, mine's nothing like as neat as Christine's, but but then you do this one with a twist. So halfway along, you start pulling the needle up the other way so that it creates this twist effect. I didn't get it so well on that one, but on this one, I think that's lovely. So that needs some more practice. But I've got plenty of room there. I could do a whole line of them up. I could do, lots and lots of them on here. The other thing I was thinking about doing when I got to the bees, which might be what I could do on this, on the reverse side of this, is I've got a vintage little booklet that came in with the magazines that I bought that was all about creating borders. So just using very simple stitches like straight stitches and cross stitches and things just to do borders. So I think when I come back next time, I'll have this bit finished. I'll have decided what I'm doing with this. I think the bullion stitches and things will go on here. My pocket should be ready. So I might, next time I come back, I might just try some of those borders and show you them, because that would be something a bit different. There's no point in me going through and showing these stitches, because I'm following Christine's tutorial and you can go along and watch them on there. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Really getting into this now. It's beginning to take shape in my head. It's not how I imagined it was going to be, partly because I didn't imagine I was going to have all these beautiful fabrics to play with. So yeah, it's taking shape in a slightly different way to what I expected, but I'm just loving it, really enjoying it, and I'm enjoying learning some new stitches from my repertoire as well. So that's it for me today. I thought that'll be quite enough. I'll be back in probably a week or so to show you how I'm getting on with this, and perhaps do those border stitches, and then I'll be ready to move on to the next step, onto finishing my bee pages, I think. So thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.